Let's move for a second back to another follow-up of the Summer Olympics, which, of course, have been postponed to 2021, but no specific date has been set. Could be spring, which would, of course, conflict with the usual NBA schedule. So, Tony, how important is it to the Olympics, you think, and the league for the NBA players who have now competed in this thing since 1992 to compete in the Summer Olympics?
Okay, I think you and I may disagree on this. I think that everything that the NBA wanted to prove has been proven. And like the NHL, which has gotten out of the Olympic business, I think the NBA can get out of the Olympic business now. I would prefer having college kids and maybe recently retired pros. I mean, my feeling about the Olympics is the Olympics does not need the NBA at all. The Olympics is a 12-ring circus. They put swimming on, they put gymnastics on. The NBA is fine, the basketball is fine, but I don't think that they need it. And if it's me, I'm going to back away if I'm the NBA.
No, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. And I could talk you into this. If I was sitting with you, I'd talk you into it before the end of the segment. Tony, the explosion of basketball globally doesn't coincide with 1992. It's because of 1992 and then 1996 and then 2000. And when you look all over the world, these players, these world players, the Luka Doncic's, just talk to them for 30 seconds. Talk to Dirk, who we know and have talked to, and they will tell you the impact of the professional NBA, with you, whatever you call it. The best players in the world have to play in this. And Tony, part of the 12-ring circus you talked about that is the Summer Olympics, the biggest tent and the most people under the biggest tent go with the NBA, go with Olympic basketball. So whether it's Brazil or Eastern Europe or Africa, Tony, the best players in the world have to play.
I don't agree with that. I think it's possible that the NBA needs this more than the Olympics does. But when you talk about rings, we know what rings are. When you talk about rings, it's not the Olympic rings, it's NBA championships. To me, I'll speak for American players. NBA American players care much more about winning the NBA title than they do about Olympics. Charles Barkley has no rings. We love him dearly, but he's got an Olympic gold medal. I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters for golfers. I don't think it matters for tennis. Tennis players want to win Wimbledon. Golfers want to win the Masters. I understand your point that it was, it validated basketball on a lot of levels. I just don't think it's necessary anymore. That's all.
Yeah, Tony,
let me get to a third topic.
By the way, wait, hold on. Let me make this one last point. Charles Barkley participated on the greatest team ever assembled in any sport in the world.
And we were there. We watched it. And from that point on, I understand, but from that point on, I don't think they had to do it because they proved the points. Let's go to baseball for a second. Jeff Passan of ESPN says that Major League Baseball wants to announce that depending on how long the season goes, we don't even know when it's going to start, but however many games they can get in, the playoffs, because it could be mid to late November, it could be later than that, the playoffs will be held, playoffs and the World Series, will be held at neutral sites, warm weather neutral sites. I know how I feel about this, Wilbon. How do you feel about it?
I hate it. And I am not going to be critical of any industry or its employees, in this case players, managers, or whomever, staff members. I'm not going to be critical of anybody trying to get paid a full salary. To be against that is just, that has to be dismissed. So I'm not against that. But, Tony, you're also dismissing your patrons if you're baseball, and you say, let's just stage these in a neutral site thing because Scott Boras or some few people think it's a good idea. No. And, Tony, I hope that baseball could be played most of the summer, and we're talking mid-June, all the way through. And you can squeeze it into early November because we've seen it because they did it in Chicago and Cleveland November 1st and 2nd, I think. So it can be done. But, Tony, no, I don't want to see baseball just be so self-indulgent that they say, oh, we have to have a 162-game season. No, you don't. These are extraordinary times. Make an exception. Understand the world and the place you are operating in now.
So I'm glad you said make an exception. On the number of games, if they go 80, if they go 100, if they go 120, I'm okay. I don't think they have to go 162. But I understand this, and I understand this year and this year only. I don't want to see this happen on a regular basis. I will tell you, Mike, and I know you feel this way because you went to games in Wrigley when the Cubs were in the World Series. I got to go to Game 3 last year with the Washington Nationals. I would never have gotten that if it was someplace else. I don't want it to be a corporate event like the Super Bowl. I think that fans stay with you for 162 games, and you need to reward their patience and their loyalty by putting it in your home stadium.
Amen.
You and I have been to Chicago and New York and to Cleveland and to Boston, and it's rugged in the winter. It's rugged for the World Series, Games 4, Games 5, Game 6. We've been to those. But fans want to go. This year, okay, but not in the future, Mike, not in the future.
Tony, I just think even this year, I mean, it would seem you could conform. Again, I understand money, and baseball has a larger percentage, I think, of the gate, going into the revenue than probably football and basketball. But, Tony, there ought to be a way. I don't want to say 80 games. If they can get in even 110, 100-plus games,
get them
put
in.
these
get
things in the communities where people support their teams.
And generally, I believe that this year, I think, is the exception to all rules at this point.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.